There is a truth about your pineal that they rarely speak of, and it starts with a simple premise. Some wisdom was kept out of sight because it gave people power over their own inner verification. What I'm about to share is not a new medical discovery, nor a promise of instant miracles. It is an invitation to look, to feel, and to test, quietly, gently, whether a map preserved in obscure sources might still speak through your body. If that idea wakes something in you, stay with me for a minute and, when you feel ready, leave the word recognition in the comments after the first practice. That single word will help build the circle of witnesses who notice for themselves. Centuries ago, a different kind of scripture, texts found in Nag Hammadi, including what scholars call the Gospel of Philip, kept a language for signs on the body. Those writings, read through a Gnostic lens, describe 3 subtle marks, 3 points of confirmation that tell a seeker. You come from a source. You perceive beyond the ordinary. You have a voice that matters. The authors used these marks as proof that a person carried a certain lineage of memory, anamnesis, the recovery of origin. Over time, these ideas were marginalized, reframed, or simply forgotten by larger institutions. What remained alive was the practice of noticing, touch, breath, attentive awareness. Some modern seekers have connected that practice to the pineal region, to what many call the third eye, and to a phenomenon modern imaging sometimes shows, calcification of the gland. That connection is an interpretation, not a settled scientific fact. Medical literature notes that calcification of the pineal appears on some scans. What that means for perception, spirituality, or inner life is debated. This is not medical advice. If you have health concerns, consult a qualified healthcare professional. Now hear the map as it was handed down, and then we will translate it into a careful somatic check you can perform right now. The 3 points I will describe are not a clinical exam. They are experiential markers. An origin point at the base of the skull, a line of perception felt along the hand's edge, and a center of command just above the sternum. Some read the origin point metaphorically, others associate it with the third eye axis where the pineal rests. Whatever your frame, historical, symbolic, or physiological, these markers are meant to return agency to your own senses. They allow you to verify in your own body whether something inside you responds. Imagine for a moment a chamber of memory hidden in the center of your head, a small gland modern anatomists name the pineal. In mystical language, it is a lamp, an interior lighthouse. In plain terms, the pineal is a tiny structure deep in the brain that has been discussed across cultures as linked to cycles of night and day, to sleep patterns, and to what some call inner seeing. Across centuries, different teachers have suggested that the clarity of this inner lamp can be dimmed by environmental factors, by habit, by what the ancients called the forces that obscure. In esoteric discourse, those forces take archetypal names, the demiurge or archontes, not persons to blame but metaphors for systems that displace inner knowing with external authority. Read them as psychological patterns, cultural impositions, or metaphysical actors. The point is this: the feeling of being cut off from one's deeper sense of origin and perception is real for many, and it merits careful embodied inquiry. Before we move into the practice, a clear line. When people speak of pineal calcification in alternative spaces, they often mean a hardening or shrouding of that inner lamp. Some medical scans do show calcium deposits in the pineal for many adults. What that shows exactly about consciousness is an open question. There is no medical consensus that calcification is a direct cause of spiritual dulling or psychic shutdown. This exploration is a safe, sensory experiment in self-observation, simple, respectful, and non-invasive. Find a place where you can sit comfortably for a few minutes. Loosen anything tight around your neck. Let your shoulders soften. Allow the breath to come in and out without forcing it. As you settle, I'll guide you through the 3 checks in a steady, slow cadence. Each is short, each is gentle. No pushing, no pressure, only soft contact and attentive noticing. First point, the origin at the base of the skull. Bring your attention to the place where your skull meets the top of your neck. You can place the fingertips of both hands lightly there, just where the bone rounds into the spine. Do not press into the neck. Let the touch be an acknowledgement, a recognition. Breathe slowly in through the nose and out through the mouth, twice. As you do that, allow your awareness to rest in that space. Notice anything. A warmth, a coolness, a little vibration, a subtle pressure, or nothing at all. If you feel nothing, that is part of the data. Neutrality is as honest as sensation. If something registers, a faint buzzing, a loosening, even a memory, simply notice. The ancients would say this is a sign of origin, a trace of where you begin inside. Second point, perception on the lateral hand. Lift one hand and look at the edge of the palm, the space between the base of the pinky finger and the wrist. Using the other hand, trace that edge slowly, from the heel of the palm toward the pinky. Keep your touch light, exploratory. Some readers of the Gnostic map report a tingle along that edge, as if a channel of attention runs through the side of the hand. This is described as a mark of perception, how you receive signals from the world, and how your inner eye responds. Again, breathe. If you feel a temperature change, or a subtle alignment, or nothing at all, simply observe without judgment. If you notice a sudden thought, "This is silly," or "I'm imagining this," name it. Say to yourself quietly, "There is thought." Then let the thought drift like a cloud and return to the sensation of your fingers on skin. Third point, the command at the sternum. Rest your hand lightly on the upper center of your chest, a thumb width above the breastbone. This is not the same as the heart's throb. Orient slightly higher, to the flat plate of bone that sits in the center. The old texts speak of this as the command center, the place from which intention emerges and is voiced. With a soft, steady touch, sense whether anything is present, a small warmth, a hush, a quickness of breath, or a steady stillness. Offer a simple declaration aloud if you feel comfortable. I recognize my origin. I open my perception. I speak from my command. Make the words soft, intentional, not theatrical. Feel the syllables move through your chest. Notice any echo inside you. No need to analyze it, only to acknowledge. If, during any of these points, you feel nothing at all, that is entirely valid. Noticing absence is as useful as noticing presence. The practice is verification, not proof. It returns to you the authority of your own sensory life. For those who do notice subtle responses, for those who find a warmth at the skull, a tingling where the hand is traced, or a steadiness at the sternum, this is not evidence of a miraculous fix or a medical diagnosis. It is evidence that your body speaks, and that you can listen. You might wonder, why connect these marks to the pineal and to calcification? The link is interpretive. Some esoteric traditions read the origin point, the interior lamp, and the third eye axis as overlapping territories. In modern conversation, the pineal gland became a focal point because it occupies the region that many describe as third eye. Calcification, when discussed in clinical terms, refers to deposits that can form in small tissues over time. Some thinkers suggest that when that inner lamp hardens, perception dulls. Others caution that scans showing calcification are not direct indicators of spiritual capacity. Keep the distinction in mind. One is anatomical observation, the other is a symbolic or experiential claim. Both can be useful. Both can mislead if treated as absolute. We must also address resistance, the inner voice that will likely rise while you do these checks. It might say, "This is placebo," or "You're being gullible," or "This is dangerous." These reactions are not failures, they are signals. In Gnostic terms, skeptics called the blocking forces archontic, mechanisms that preserve the status quo by sowing doubt. In psychological terms, resistance is the mind's protector, maintaining predictable territory. When that voice shows up, do this. Notice it. Name it. Breathe. Say internally, I hear the doubt, and then return to the body. The practice of observation is to witness both sensation and commentary without becoming entangled. Each time you return to the practice, you train attention, not belief. There are also simple guidelines for safety and clarity. Touch lightly. Do not manipulate or contort the neck. Do not take supplements or protocols based on speculative claims you see online without medical consultation. Do not allow this practice to replace medical care if you have sleep disorders, neurological symptoms, or other health concerns. If you are curious about calcification as a physiological matter, ask a qualified clinician or seek reliable sources. Above all, hold your curiosity with both wonder and responsibility. What you can do tonight, as a gentle nightly practice, is this short routine. Before sleep, sit or lie down in a calm place. Rest your fingertips at the base of the skull for a slow breath cycle. Move to the lateral edge of one hand and trace it slowly 3 times, noticing. Place your palm over the sternum and say the declaration softly. I recognize my origin. I open my perception. I speak from my command. Keep the practice under 5 minutes. Let it be a closing of attention, a homecoming, not an urgent campaign of self-alteration. Over days and weeks, the aim is to cultivate a steady noticing, how the inner lamp responds when you are kind to it. If you experience emotional stirring, tears, a rush of memory, a sudden calm, allow it. These are manifestations of inner life waking to attention, not guarantees of permanent states. If nothing significant occurs, remember that many subtle transformations happen beneath awareness and only later reveal themselves as small shifts in clarity, sleep, or how decisions feel in the body. Again, do not expect fireworks. Expect increments. Expect recognition, not coercion. You may ask, are we merely reenacting an old ritual dressed up in modern garb? Perhaps. Ritual is a way to engage the nervous system. When you touch a place with intention and name it aloud, you create a loop of attention that the nervous system can register. Some of the greatest teachers throughout time encoded their work in gestures and words precisely because of that effect. The Gnostic authors who spoke of seals and marks did not necessarily intend to supply anatomical manuals. They intended to provide a pathway for remembering who one is. When modern seekers map that pathway onto the pineal and its physiology, they are making a bridge between body and symbol. Bridges are useful, but they require careful crossing. Let me offer one more frame for what you might have just done. Think of your attention as a candle in a dark room. The room is cluttered with furniture, memories, habits, cultural narratives. Some of those objects cast shadows across the candle's light. The practice we just walked through is not about tearing down the furniture by force. It's about curiously approaching the candle, gently blowing away lint from the wick, noticing the shape of a shadow, and perhaps setting a small window open so that a breeze can come. Calcification, in symbolic language, can be the crust that forms over a lens. In practical language, it may be an imaging observation with unclear implications. Either way, tending to the candle with attention is an act of care, not of desperate demand. There will be people who will push back hard: neuroscientists, skeptics, institutional voices. Some will say this is unfounded, others will say anything outside established medicine is dangerous. That debate is not ours to settle here. What matters is that you have the right to verify in your own body and to hold that verification alongside external information. You are not required to accept any authority without personal corroboration. At the same time, you are asked to remain humble before the complexity of physiology and to seek medical counsel where appropriate. If this practice resonated even a little, if you felt a warmth, a shift, a softening, type recognition in the comments. Use that one word to connect with others who noticed. Do not use it as proof of any grand claim. Use it as a record that you engaged, quietly and honestly, with your own senses. In the coming weeks, I will share deeper contextual pieces, an exploration of the historical language in the Nag Hammadi texts, interviews with scholars who study the Gospel of Philip and Gnostic anthropology, and conversations with clinicians about what imaging can and cannot tell us. My commitment is to keep the boundary clear. I will present the esoteric perspective and the medical perspective side by side, distinguishing interpretation from evidence. Before I close, one final practical note about inner resistance. If harsh doubt or anxiety arises during the practice, if you feel panicked or unsettled, release the touch, open your hands, and do a few breaths focused on the sensations of the feet grounding into the floor. If feelings persist, consider speaking with a mental health professional. The inner landscape can be fragile, and gentle guidance is a wise companion. Awakening, as these traditions insist, is not an event handed to you by someone else. It is recognition of origin, of perception, of voice, performed in the quiet laboratory of your lived experience. The practices we explored are small tools for that recognition. They are neither secrets guaranteed to change your life overnight, nor empty rituals with no potency. They are invitations to become your own witness. If this message landed for you, subscribe and share it with someone who might benefit from a gentle, self-verifying approach to inner clarity. There will be more. Deeper readings of the texts, more guided checks, and a careful look at the scientific conversations around the pineal gland, always with the same promise to separate possibility from claim. For now, rest in the fact that you can test and know in your own body, that your attention is a valid instrument, and that recognition is a beginning rather than a verdict. Thank you for staying with this. If you felt anything at all during the practice, write recognition in the comments so our small community can witness one another. Go slowly with these tools. Be kind to your inner lamp. Be curious. Be responsible.